It was a nice winter break, but we are back. We'll dive into boys and girls basketball, wrestling, gymnastics, and athlete of the week. It's Varsity 360, and it starts right now. Hi there, everyone. Mark Coleman here from the Virginia Varsity Sports Network, and this is Varsity 360, our weekly look at the top stories in Fredericksburg area high school sports. As always, we're partnered with the very good folks from the Freelance Star and their high school sports department, FLS Varsity. We have two of the very talented members of that group with us here this week. We have sports reporter Mr. Taft Coghill. Taft, Happy New Year, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mark. It's been a while.
Yeah. Did you have a nice holiday?
Very good.
Good, good. Well, glad to have you back. We also have one of my very favorite assistant sports editors. It is Mr. Justin Rice. Justin, Happy New Year to you, man.
I never tire of hearing you compliment us. So you keep that up. Good job.
Well, you know, it's well-deserved, though. It's good to have you guys. It's good to be back. Good to be back to talk high school sports.
Absolutely.
Missed it.
Yeah.
Missed it.
Yep.
Let's start tonight with boys basketball, and we will introduce the very first Varsity 360 Top 5 of 2015. Checking in at number 5 and making their first appearance in the Varsity 360 Top 5, it is Cortland at 10-3. A pretty impressive turnaround for this team.
Yeah, the Cougars have been sort of maybe down the last couple of years since JT Nino retired, and I think they've turned it around a little bit. They're 10-3. They're definitely a factor in Conference 22. They still have another matchup with Chancellor to come. Jabari Allen and Daryl Jarrell over from FCS is a 6'4" guard that gives them some punch. And, you know, a big 53-52 win over Fauquier last Friday. I think the Cougars are playing well, right?
Yeah, it looks like Monty McMorris finally has that program rolling the way he envisioned when he took over for JT.
There you go. So Cortland at 10-3 checks in at number 5. At number 4, pretty familiar team for us around here on the top 5, Chancellor. They are 10-2 thus far on the season.
Yeah, coming off of an overtime win over Liberty Friday, 77-74. I mean, what you have with Chancellor is you have a team that likes to get up and down the floor, and they have a lot of big athletes. You've seen some of those guys on the football field, like Jason Brown and E.J. Jenkins. And when you add those guys in with Kevin Parks and Jawan Graves, their two leading scorers, you have a really, really athletic bunch there.
Very good. So Chancellor at number 4. At number 3, a team that has another football player that we've heard a thing or two about around here, Culpeper at 11-2 on the season.
And Jeremy Robson shooting three-pointers for Culpeper. And Luther Gibbs, of course, is another guy. Culpeper has been, I think, year by year, if you look over the last 10 years, Culpeper's really been maybe the most consistent program. They've been very solid. You know, they get it wide open. They get up and down the floor. Conference 27, though, maybe the face is changing a little bit. Mm-hmm. JM with a big win over Culpeper last week. And, of course, Spotsy now.
Yeah, Darius Carter coming back to Spotsy, and Culpeper meets up with Spotsy this week, and you'll see probably a pretty interesting game, one of the more interesting games of the week at the end of this week when Culpeper and Spotsy go at it.
Excellent. So some good basketball to be played around the area. Here's a team that's made a good turnaround this season, checking in at number 2 in the Varsity 360 Top 5. They are 11-3 on the season. Riverbend. How about that?
Yeah, similar to what Justin was saying about Cortland, a team that's finally finding its way a little bit under a coach that's been there 5 or 6 years or so. Eric Davis, he built a really consistent program at King George, I think even making it to a state final back earlier in the 2000s. But he's finally got that Riverbend program humming the way he wants.
Cameron Hill, 12.6 a game, leading the way. They like to get up and down the floor too. What is that? Teams all over the place right now. Yeah, they're really embracing that.
Well, Eric Davis, his defense has always been his staple, but you know that defense creates offense. You know when you have athletic guys like the young man you mentioned, and also C.J. Beckett and some of those other guys.
There's some old school Stafford County coaches who see these kids running up and down the floor, scored 70 points. From back in the day of holding the basketball a lot, holding the basketball a lot.
Four corners offense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, number 1, not a whole lot of surprise here. A team that had an awfully successful season last year, the defending state champion, Colonial Forge. They are 14-1 in the season, and they are currently in the number 1 spot in the Varsity 360 Top 5.
Sure, and I think you had Haskins back and you have Burgess back, and Haskins, of course, was the Freelance Star Player of the Year last year. And I think they knew that those two would be back, and they're sort of their premier basketball players. The question was going to be the athletes and the leadership around those two. 14-1, and their one loss is pretty good.
Yeah, they lost to John Marshall, who was a 3A state champion last year. They lost to them in a close game down there in Richmond. But they did lose Gary Jennings. But, guys like Curry and Eaton, T.J. Flood, those guys have stepped up even more this year. And it's a team that's prepared to make another similar run to what they did last year.
Jennings not playing for the team this year.
No, Jennings is not playing for Colonial Forge. He thought he might have too much to lose with the football scholarship. So he decided to sit out.
And I know in the preseason it was a guy like Damon Daniel, who was sort of a glue player for them last year. That was a guy that I know Jason John was concerned about replacing. 14-1, I don't think they could ask for better.
Yeah, looked like they've replaced them pretty well.
I think so.
I'd say so. I'd say so. So that's the boys basketball top 5 for Varsity 360. Turning now to girls basketball and looking at the Varsity 360 top 5. Coming in at number 5 at 10-4 on the season, we have Caroline. Impressive teams here.
Yeah, the Cavaliers have, I think, one of the best inside-outside combos. You got Hope Tolliver, who's a good front court player, Jasmine Moore on the inside. The question for Caroline is going to be, they're 10-4, they're playing a pretty good Battlefield District schedule, and they're winning a lot of games. I think they're a good area team. Conference 20, where their postseason fate lies, that's tough.
Yeah, that's tough when you look at Midlothian and Monacan. They played J.R. Tucker earlier in the year and lost by 3. They know they can match up with Tucker, so they're hoping, I believe they're hoping that that's the team they can get in the semis to possibly get by them and get into the regional playoffs.
Okay. Caroline at 10-4 and number 5 in the top 5. Coming in at number 4, a little bit of a down year for them so far this year. Colonial Forge at 8-2.
Yeah, they lost the 2 key players last year who are both playing Division I basketball with Kenya Holland and Jayla Osborne.
Hard to replace that.
Yeah, hard to replace that. But then on top of that, you lose Nicole Collins to transfer. You lose Zane Barnes to a transfer, and they still have a lot of talent. But it's taken a while for it to gel. They hadn't lost a area game since 2011, and they've lost 3 so far this year.
And I'm not ready to jump on your down year, your bandwagon yet. I still think Colonial Forge has the talent. I like Colonial Forge to pull it together. There's certainly going to be a mixing conference for. They're certainly going to be one of the better 2 teams in that region. Certainly, I like Colonial Forge to move on to the region tournament.
Okay, you heard it here. Coming in at number 3 in the girls' Varsity 360 top 5 at 9-2 on the season, we've got Colonial Beach, the Drifters, Ladies Drifters.
Well, I don't know if strength of schedule is factored into the Varsity 360 top 5. But
we can't give away the secrets on how we come up with these numbers.
Colonial Beach has played a really impressive schedule for one of the smallest schools in the state. They've played many of the Stafford schools. They played Mountain View. They played Brook Point. Of course, King George, Caroline. They're 9-2. Sydney Carriers, their point guard. They play the Havoc VCU defense up and down the floor, just like those boys teams we talk about.
Yeah.
And they're fun to watch and a very good 1A team. 46-43 over rival King George last week.
Yeah, the key to Colonial Beach is every time they step on the floor, they think they're going to win, whether they're playing a 1A team or a 6A team. Keith Dickerson has really done an impressive job of instilling that mindset into them.
It's been an impressive season for Colonial Beach all around. They had a very impressive football season, knocked off some bigger schools. It looks like it's continuing on the girls' basketball side as well. Colonial Beach at number 3 in our girls' Varsity 360 top 5. Coming in at number 2, another very impressive squad here, Mountain View at 13-2.
Yeah, Coach Ben Sargent has done perhaps the best coaching job in the area this year. When you look at what he's done, I mean, they've knocked off Colonial Forge. They split with Colonial Beach, and they have a very talented 6'4" freshman, Rochelle Norris, who unfortunately went down with a dislocated kneecap and is going to be lost for the season. But even since she's gone down, they've won several consecutive games without her.
Well, when you watch Mountain View play, and what Ben Sargent does best is they play a sort of a grinding, low-scoring style, and no matter what team they're playing, even if it's one of those up-and-down teams, they seem to force their will, and we're going to play tonight. We're going to play Mountain View style. It's going to be in the 30s or 40s. It's going to be a lot of free throw shooting, and they're going to play defense in your face.
Yeah, and in addition to Norris, they have their second leading scorer, I think, doesn't play on Friday games for religious reasons. So, and they've been winning without both of them, so very impressive.
Yes. 13-2, so impressive performance there from Mountain View, number 2 in the Varsity 360 top 5. There's a pretty clear favorite leader in the clubhouse, as it were. Number 1 in the girls Varsity 360 top 5, it is Chancellor at 12-3 on the season. 2 of those losses, however, were to a very strong private school from Charlottesville.
Jayla Harris, Sydney Jackson, they have a lot of depth and a lot of scoring punch. You know, the Chargers are very strong again this year. They have been the last couple of years.
Yeah, the key to them is those two girls you mentioned are definitely what makes them go. But Coach William Griffin has done an outstanding job of developing some of the younger girls behind them, instilling some confidence in them. A young point guard, LaShonda Patterson, and some of the other role players have done an excellent job so far this season.
So there you have the very first of 2015 Varsity 360 Girls Top 5. Let's take a look now at wrestling. The season well underway and things shaping up at the team level, and no surprise here, we've got an area team that has some state championship aspirations.
I think Colonial Forge is certainly the team you look at. I mean, that's not really a surprise with how the Eagles have been over the last decade. This year, Bill Swink and I talked before the season, and I think he thinks they can get 14 kids through to the state tournament. You know, and Colonial Forge has not been a team that's won piles and piles of individual team titles, but they are a team that's racked up place winners. When you send 14 and 8 or 10 of those kids place in maybe the top 4, you're in real good shape team-wise. Colonial Forge got a real good shot at the 6A title this year.
They seem to be methodical in how they just churn out state championships, and that's the key to it. They just have that depth. Those kids that continue to be medalists, and it just adds up.
Yeah, well, certainly, and every year, you know, they're going to graduate some kids. The kids keep coming. I think this year you would start maybe with freshman Levi Engelman at 106, is a kid who I know Coach Schwink is really high on, and has a chance to do very well right off the bat at 106 as a freshman.
I know that there's at least one weight classification in the area that's really exciting you. Which is the best weight classification?
Oh, the best weight class. It's not even a contest. It's 126 pounds, where you have Colonial Forge's Josh Nail as the defending 6A title winner, and of course last year's Freelance Star Wrestler of the Year, Junior Beltran, is the defending 5A state title winner for Mountain View. Colin Johnson from King George is very good, and of course isn't in our top 2 because those two are so good.
Yeah. Nail and Beltran have wrestled against each other.
They have one result. Nail won it. You know, of course, once these two are going to get into the postseason, it doesn't quite matter as much. You know, they're not competing for the same titles, but I'm sure there's some bragging rights. You know, Stafford County rights.
I'm certain.
Yeah, certainly.
There's also a good wrestler at the 220.
Yeah, 220. Patrick Grayson from Colonial Forge. That's a great name to bring up. Patrick is not only one of the best wrestlers in the area, not only one of the best wrestlers in the state. Patrick is regarded as one of the best wrestlers in maybe the country at his weight, and is another kid. He's a defending state champion. He's got a good chance to be in there and lead the Eagles to that team title. You know, that's one of the best parts about Colonial Forge is their depth in the upper weight classes. Where you have Anthony Carter, you have Patrick Grayson, of course, you have Robert Winters. Cameron Houston was a standout for Stafford last year, and his family moved, and he's at Colonial Forge. He'll be a factor at 195 in the state tournament if he stays healthy. They're just so good in the upper weight class. In the lower weight classes, you still have Nail, and you have, of course, Jeff Stone and Mason Woodall. Just a kid at every weight class who's just very, very solid.
The numbers just keep coming and coming, and the names just keep coming and coming.
Yeah.
Speaking of names and numbers, though, I know every Friday in the Freelance Star, you guys publish the top 3 by weight class. Is that right?
Yeah, every Friday we'll put out our new top 3. We sort of pour over results and emails and complaints and criticisms. And
I can't imagine that there's ever any concerns or criticisms. Everyone's always quite pleased with the way the results come out.
Absolutely, yeah. So we pour over results and we put it out there, our top 3, and we like to see people following it and responding and shoot us an email and tell us why we're wrong. You know, there's a lot of good wrestling talent in the area this year. Brian Ramey from Eastern View is back at 132 pounds. He's trying for his 3rd state title this year in his senior season. Of course, we talked about Colin Johnson and Nail and Beltran and Grayson and Stone. And I think Shane Ice from Brook Point is another one. He's moved up to 170 this year. He's going to be a guy that you're going to talk about. You know, I think Riverbend's got some good individual talent. Brook Point, of course, besides Ice, the Dutel brothers are very solid. You know, there's a lot of good wrestling out there this year. Always, this is one of the best wrestling areas in the state, and in terms of a variety of teams that put out a lot of talent.
Right, and certainly with some very strong teams there. For those who maybe have not gone to a wrestling match, is it spectator friendly? Is it pretty easy to follow? Lots of action going on there.
Not easy to follow, but once you sort of figure out the rhythm and the cadence of the match and anticipate who's going on, and you've looked at the brackets and you sort of say, "Ooh, look, this is going to be a good matchup," especially when you get those middle seeds against each other, things like that, and you get some maybe anticipated kids at the top seeds in the finals. You know, there's a lot going on, but wrestling's real fun to watch. You make a day of it, And, it's physical one-on-one competition. We can go if you want. Did you want to?
Maybe next week. I got to loosen up just a little bit. It's
Fair enough.
it's a little cold in here. The Winterfest Invitational Gymnastics Tournament took place at Colonial Forge High School this past weekend, and Stafford High School showed very well. In fact, Bryn Reeves won the first place in the girls all-around. And by way of that, Bryn Reeves is the Varsity 360 Athlete of the Week, very first Athlete of the Week for 2015. I'm sure she's very pleased with that to go along with her first place all-around performance. She also scored first in the balance beam, a near perfect 9.5.
Yeah, Stafford, it's good to see them with an all-around winner. Stafford has been the best gymnastics program in the area the last 20 years or so, and it's because of their depth. It's not, they usually get by with several good girls in several different events. Maybe not necessarily with the top all-arounder, but certainly Bryn Reeves, Naomi Jones, these are girls that can really go, and Stafford is the best team in their conference and going to be a factor in the region, and it seems really a safe bet to move on to the States as a team.
Certainly. So they've won the blue division in this tournament for the second straight year in 3 out of the past 4 years. I think the storyline here, though, in gymnastics, though, has to be the freshman and sophomore class. So some impressive talent.
Yeah, that is. I think that is what I look at and go, man, these freshmen and sophomore this year. Emily Brutsky from Mountain View, she was our gymnast of the year last year. She's a freshman. Sydney Nickens from Colonial Forge. There's so many of them that I'm gonna leave them off. Lauren Graves from Mountain View. Jessie Adu from Colonial Forge. Just a bunch of different girls. The athletes come in waves, especially in such a niche sport like gymnastics. And this is a really good crop right now, the freshman and the sophomore here. Next couple of years, it's going to be a good bunch to watch.
Exciting time, yeah. Looking forward to it. So congratulations once again to Bryn Reeves, the Varsity 360 Athlete of the Week. Well, that's going to do it for this week's installment of Varsity 360. As always, very happy to be joined by the good folks from the FLS varsity team. Taft, appreciate the time. Good seeing you, buddy. Hope to see you again in the very near future.
Good seeing you too, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. As always,
it's going to get busy here. Lots of postseasons coming. It's right around the corner.
it is right around the corner. It's that's what happens when you jump in midway to the season, right?
You got to shake the rust off. We'll be ready to go.
Certainly appreciate you watching. Hope you check back next week for the next installment of Varsity 360 for the Virginia Varsity Sports Network. I'm Mark Coleman. Thanks for watching, everyone.